Thank you. Yeah. What's up, Mesa? Yeah, I didn't think you'd hear that at 11:30, huh? How about that? Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm Forbes. My friends call me 500. My mom refuses to call me that. She thinks that's ridiculous. I am a change agent comedian. So what that means is change agents are individuals that transform themselves personally and professionally, but they also transform the people around them on an organizational level. Do you want me to start this time, or you just want me to go off my mental clock? Because it's saying get off stage right now. And I'm like, yo, I just started. I know. That's hardcore, man. Yeah, so my ultimate goal is that I am going to raise and improve global mental health and wellness through comedy. And the first time I said that to someone, they said, that sounds ridiculous. And I said, let me explain the science. So there's something about comedy. It's the most nuanced form of communication. You ever tried to write a joke with ChatGPT? They suck, okay? My job is safe, right? It's because it's what you're saying, it's how you're saying, it's who you're saying it to, it's when, it's where, it's the lighting in the room, it's all of it, right? And there's something awesome about laughter, because laughter is it's like a chemical kick to the forehead, okay? It disarms you, and it opens that dopamine highway right in the center of your brain, which makes you able to learn. And that's what's really exciting. It is essentially a Trojan horse, is how we can subtly help people transform themselves if they do it by laughing, right? It's something they tell you to do, like on a date or in a sales conversation, make a joke, lighten the tension. Get it? All right, cool. We're all on the same page. Sounds good. All of these talks that we've had already were so awesome because they all hammered home the theme of authenticity. Last on the panel, they were talking about that thin line between authenticity and professionalism, and together we are going to walk that. Is that cool? If you can gather from the fact that I want to improve global mental health and wellness by comedy, and I do that by telling my stories and being vulnerable, it's fair to make an assumption that I haven't always had the best mental health and wellness. You dig? Okay, cool. Yeah. So this one time in high school, I was going to kill myself, right? Don't be weird, okay? It's a true story. You know how it ends. I'm right here, all right? So I was going to jump off this bridge, right? And my friends were like, don't. So I didn't, you know? And then my mom picks me up. She's driving me to the hospital. It's an awkward car ride, okay? Radio's off, windows up. My mom is making like the world's worst small talk. She's like, so, what bridge were you gonna jump off? I was like, the one in the park? She's like, that's a nice bridge. I really like that bridge. And then I'll never forget what she said, because it helped me rewrite my story. She was like, you know, I don't think that fall would have killed you. It's like, come on, Mom. What? But there is something about that, and that's what I'm here to talk about, is the stories we tell ourselves and how we can rewrite them. So everyone here, we are a storyteller, whether or not you know it. We have micro stories that are a greater picture of our macro story, right? That's what first impressions are, okay? You know, they say whenever you're on a date, pay attention to how they treat the wait staff, because that's a greater picture of their whole life, right? Or the first time you get in somebody's car and it's meant their house looks like. Do you understand? Right? Or even pets, you know? Tyler, you have a pet? What? Yeah, what kind of dog? Yeah, you got Labradoodle energy, bro. See, that's what I'm talking about. Okay? We all have these micro stories that tell a greater version of ourselves. It's how we show up in the world. And so what we want to do, and what we do at the Change Agents Academy, is we've developed this change model, right? And it starts with your mindset, your habits, your story, and then ultimately your purpose. So what we want to do is that we want to go back and we want to make new meaning to things that happen to us, because that is ultimately shapes who we are today, and it will guide us into the future. So, join with me here for a second. Just visualize a time when you were a kid. Maybe you were 5, 6, 7. You can close your eyes if that helps you visualize better. But think of a time when you were absolutely free. Like you just woke up and you could do anything you wanted, and just really put yourself in that moment. And maybe you can remember where you were. You may even remember what you were wearing. But that day where your feet hit the floor and you were like, I can do anything I want. That was when we have this proverbial wagon, and that's when that wagon was empty, right? And then we go through life, and life happens. You fail an assignment. You get fired from a job. Somebody lies to you. And all of a sudden, that wagon starts to fill up. And then, as we start to climb higher and higher mountains, we're carrying this big wagon behind, and we're like, why is it so hard? Why is this journey so hard? Well, because we've got all this stuff that we're filled in our wagon that we're now attached to. And for some reason, that becomes a part of us. It becomes a meaning, right? And the only way, you've heard this analogy several different times, whether it's a wagon or if it's rocks in your backpack, whatever it is, until we make new meaning and understand that right now is the only moment that matters, that this is the most important moment of your life because it's the only time you can influence the present, we're going to be carrying that wagon around forever. So I'm going to share some examples of how I've rewritten some of the stuff that was in my wagon to take it out. When I was in high school, I was the captain of the hockey team. I grew up in Michigan. We played downriver Detroit hockey, which was just a fight, and sometimes hockey would happen. You understand, right? And I got a traumatic brain injury. And I had to relearn how to read and write when I was 16 years old. And the doctors were preparing me. They were like, just so you know, you may not go to university. And even then, I was like, I'll probably still get into Arizona State, okay? But so I decided right then and there, I was like, no, that's not how this is going to go down, okay? So hockey was taken away. So what did I do? I went all in on academics. And then by the time I graduated high school, I was valedictorian, I was a Coca-Cola scholar, I was the MLK Award winner. Actually, Mesa, on the way in, all these banners out here, the All-America City by the National Civic League, they won it this year. Every year, the National Civic League picks the All-America Teen of the Year, and that was me in 2011, right? And so I was, a dick? Because it all went right to my head. Sorry, it's a PG, my bad. I was a jerk, all right? It all went right to my head. And I needed to rebrand myself. And that's when I started viewing my life as like a sitcom. So, believe it or not, today is actually my birthday. It is, thank you. Every day is a new episode, and every year is a new season. So today is season 29, episode 1 of The Forbes Show. So thank you guys so much for being here. I know I look like it's the 35th season, but this is what 29th season looks like, okay? And it wasn't until I went to college that I started to rewrite my story. So Forbes is actually my middle name. My first name is Nicholas. And valedictorian, honor student Nicholas, he wasn't, in my mind, cool, right? And when you move into the dorms, you have those name tags on the dorm room doors, and I met this guy. It's like, what's up, Nicholas? Looked over his shoulder, and I said, James. He said, oh, I go by my middle name, Andy. And I was like, oh, I go by my middle name, Forbes. And I had never gone by Forbes before, right? But he's like, that's a cool name. I was like, you're right, that is a cool name. Why haven't I been using that? And then I became Forbes. And now all my friends in Michigan just think I'm some jerk that went and just changed his name, moved across the country, right? But then it continued. I wanted to continue to rewrite the 18th season of The Forbes Show. We changed the whole name of the show. It was a major rebrand. And I told all my friends, I was like, you know what I'm going to start doing? I'm going to start doing comedy. And they all said the same thing. They said, yeah, you're not funny. I was like, thank you. I appreciate that. So I auditioned for the ASU Comedy Club and the improv troupe and the sketch troupe, and I didn't get into any of them. And I remember walking home to my dorm, I was like, I'm so much funnier than all of those kids. My own. And what I did was I called all the other kids that didn't make it into the troupe. And we started our own troupe. Yeah, the Rejects. I was king of the misfits at Arizona State. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. That's what it was called. It still goes on. It's on at Monday nights. I made it my honors thesis, which just goes to show you that you can make whatever you are passionate about if you find a way to actually convey a message. And our message was that we built students to talk about college life free of an academic code of conduct. Yep, defended, Barrett, thesis, no revisions. Yeah, all the other Barrett kids were like, I developed a new formula. It's like, I made a comedy show. What's up? And the reason that I'm talking about this today is because I know that you guys have stuff that have happened in your life that may be in that wagon right now that are holding you back. And what I just want to encourage you is to understand that every decision you made, whether it was right, wrong, good, bad, however you view it, it brought you right here, right? And it's up to you to make new meaning of who you are to determine where you want to go in the future. Which is, as we were talking about brand identity with Tyler and about being authentic and telling the story, when you are, in essence, your own brand, right? And the way that you can achieve professional and organizational success is if you really get your personal story down and you really understand why you're here and what has happened. So after college, I moved into a house with my two best friends. We started a band. I know, you're like, what can't this guy do? I know. And it was a really good time. And then in the span of a year, both of those guys killed themselves. And it was like, at first, it was really devastating, and I was full of guilt and stuff like that. And then it was like, no, I have to make this meaning, right? I have to make meaningful of this. I knew that we could rewrite the story. And they had me, both of them, I performed their eulogies at each of their funerals, and my funeral material kills. Oh, what? Dude, they were my best friends. They would have loved that joke, okay? But it wasn't, even though you're like around it, it wasn't always super easy to just say, I get it, I understand it. You have to actually work through it, right? So I had another episode about 4 years ago where I went to a facility, psych ward, behavioral health center. We all know what it's called, okay? It was awesome. They took great care of me. Care standard was exceptional. The best part about it was the people watching, like bar none, okay? And I really learned, and this is really important, I really want you to take this away, because I learned something huge about myself and the story I was telling myself, because I checked myself in, and they were like, all right, we'll get you in, you'll see the doctor, you'll get out of here. It was Friday morning. And I go to the back of the hospital, and I'm like, when am I going to see the doctor? And this nurse, she goes, Monday. And I was like, that was super misleading, because it's Friday. I was like, I got to go tell my friends. They're waiting for me. She's like, oh, we sent them home a long time ago. And then I start to like have a panic attack, right? She's like, do you want a piece of nicotine gum? You seem a little fussy. It's like, yeah, Janet, I am fussy. I don't have my shoelaces on. I thought I'm going to be here for 48 hours, right? So what I did for those 48 hours was I sat in the corner, and I just judged people, just looking at everybody. I was like, look at this crazy person. Look at her. She's out of her mind, I was just judging people. And then I went and I saw the doctor, and I said, hey, doc, I appreciate the help. You and I know I don't belong here with these people, And then he humbled me in a way I've never been humbled. And he goes, yeah, man, that's what they all say. And I had this like Fight Club memento moment where I realized that everyone else in the psych ward, while I was sitting there like this, they were walking by, they're like, look at that crazy dude. And I had never really understood that how other people see me is how I'm showing up, and that's the micro story and the macro story, and that's what I'm getting towards. So at that point in time, I was diagnosed bipolar. And this is an indication of where my life was at. I was relieved to be diagnosed bipolar, right? Oh, thank God, it's just bipolar. Do you understand how crazy that is, right? And now the problem was that once I got that, I was excited. It was something I put in my wagon that became a part of me. I was excited to be bipolar. The problem was I then let myself be really bipolar, right? I would let myself sleep in for well into the day, and I would just tell myself, oh, it's okay, you're depressed, you're bipolar. Or I'd stay up for 3-4 days on end. I'd be like, oh, it's okay, you're manic, you're bipolar. And it wasn't until one day where I woke up and I was like, I don't want this anymore. So I went to a doctor, and I told him, I was explaining how I write my life, and I was like, Doc, we fired the writers in the writer's room. I was like, the guy that was writing for me up here, it was Eeyore, the suicidal donkey from Winnie the Pooh. I was like, we fired him, okay? We're over this bipolar thing. And at the time, I was on a lot of medication, and he said, I can help you with that, but there's a few conditions. We'll slowly take you off the medication. You have to make these different lifestyle choices, right? Eat better, sleep, exercise, all the things that really is just super simple. You could just go online and WebMD will be like, don't do this. And you're like, oh, why am I crazy? Well, because you drink too much. And it's like, no, that can't be it. But it's really just that. And so he's like, if you make this commitment, I'll help you come off your medication. You can't tell anyone that you're coming off the medication. And I was like, what? He's like, well, right now you're doing great. And all the people around you that love and care about you, they know that you're on medication. I was like, yeah. He's like, well, in theory, if you come off the medication and you make these lifestyle changes, there won't be a difference in how you're behaving. I was like, got it. He's like, because if one day they ask you, hey, man, you've been taking your meds, it means that you're changing. I was like, yo, that's genius, right? So 18 months went by. I was off medication, and it was literally a year and a half until somebody asked me. They were like, hey, you don't really talk about your doctor anymore. Like, you still, what's going on with that? I was like, oh, I don't take that medication anymore. And they were angry. They were upset. They were like, what? Well, you have to. Well, I was like, but let me stop you right there. I haven't been doing that for 18 months, and you didn't know. You assumed I was because I'm killing it. And that's kind of the whole point about rewriting what gets put in your wagon. A label like that, while it helped and it provided some clarity, it gave an excuse to be. Does that make sense? And so what we found at the Change Agents Academy is that once you get your thoughts straight and you understand what's important to you and you have a mental self-image, and then you do the habits, you do the lifestyle changes, the diet, the exercise, the things that you know will make you successful, you can start to redefine who you are through the story you tell. And this is kind of a trip, but like I just want to give you all permission to understand that you are the main characters in your movie. We all have somebody where somebody else is the main character in their movie, right? And it's just annoying, right? Whether it's like their boyfriend or their girlfriend, it's all they talk about. It's like, dude, you are a side character in your own movie. Snap out of it, right? This is your show. This is the Forbes show. You each have your own show. It's not your world because that's what makes Karen's, okay? Because then they think it's just their world. But it is your show, okay? You are the main character in your show. So what does a hero do? We know the hero formula. It's the same. Every movie is exactly the same. Spoiler alert, Harry Potter, Star Wars, Wizard of Oz, Lion King, the Bible. It's all the same. It's all the same. There's some call to greatness, and we're like, no, I can't, I'm not great enough, blah, 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 right? It always happens, right? And then all of a sudden, you're thrust into the world of the unknown. Maybe a tornado picks you up and drops you in the land of Oz. Then you go and you meet your friends and your allies, you know? And you get the traits that you needed, the courage, the loyalty, the brain. And then you fight your demons. You go into that innermost cave. That innermost cave for me happened to be in a psych ward. But I learned a lot from those people in there, and I owe them a lot because I was so judgmental and just got reality checked in the face so hard to understand that, like, I am no different. They are still all the main characters in their show. They have maybe, I hope they all fired their writers, you know, because once I fired those writers, I hired a new one. His name's Forbes Gump. It's awesome. He's killing it. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And then you start to live into this mantra. So my new mantra that I live into, I don't have bad luck. I woke up one day, just like how I woke up one day and I decided I was done being bipolar. I was like, I don't have bad luck. I'm over it. It's kind of a trip for some people to understand. But when you don't have bad luck, you know what you have? A lot of really good luck, because there's no other option. So for example, last year, 2 nights in a row, I got mugged. Yeah, different parts of town. I've never been mugged before. I told all my friends. I was like, I got mugged 2 nights in a row. And the second time, my first thought was, no way, you know? And then my next thought was, hey, pal, this ain't my first rodeo, okay? That was last night. But I told all my friends, I was like, I got mugged 2 nights in a row. They all said the same thing. They said, sounds like you got some bad luck. I said, maybe I just look like I have a lot of money, okay? Or maybe I just look like I could get easily beat up. I get it. From the right angle, I look like a young Bill Gates, you know? Yeah, half of you are like, he does look like a young Bill Gates. The other half of you are like, I could beat him up. Yeah, I get it. I don't have bad luck. And because of that, the universe unfolds before me. So I'll get out of here on this story. Something else you should know about me, another belief system that the writers have. I'm a Tempe 7, I'm a Scottsdale 6, I'm a work function 10, okay? I know where I stand. Straight up. Meet this woman at a work function. She's in town from San Diego. Say, hey, she's way out of my league, but I'm a work function 10, you know? So I was like, hey, you want to go get a beer after this? She's like, bad luck. My team are flying back to San Diego. I said, well, I don't believe in bad luck, so I'll see you around. And that just creeped her out. But 3 months later, I'm at a bar in Old Town Scottsdale, and there she is. She's like, Forbes? I was like, what are you doing here? She's like, I'm in town for a bachelorette party. What are you doing here? I was like, I live here. What do you mean? I was like, we're in this bar. Can I buy you that beer? She's like, our party bike's here. Bad luck. I was like, I don't believe in bad luck. So, I'll see you around. It was a true story. 6 months later, I'm in San Diego. I'm walking alone on the beach at night like a psychopath. There's one other person on the beach, and it's her. Yeah, that's some really good luck. Yeah. She's like, Forbes? I was like, what are you doing here? She's like, I live here. What are you doing here? I was like, yo, there's a bar just down the street. You know what she said to me? Better luck next time. Yeah. So a year later, right? I'm in Sky Harbor International Airport. I'm walking out of the terminal, and she walks in front of me in like slow motion. And she's like, Forbes? I was like, hey, lady, you're creeping me out. She's like, I'm in town for a layover. I was like, cancel it. She's like, why? So I can get a beer with you? I was like, yeah, you going to look destiny in the face and say no? I'm sorry, this is what your destiny looks like, babe, but this is it. I don't know what to tell you. So we go over to the ticketing counter. She's like, I'm in, layover. You have anything? She's like, earliest I got is tomorrow morning. She looks at me, back at the ticketing lady. She's like, that works. That's right? This ticketing agent looks me up and down, and back at her as if to be like, this is the dude you're canceling your flight for? And I wanted to be like, hey, lady, I'm a work function 10, okay? So anyways, guys, that's what I wanted to talk about today, how we can rewrite our past. Thank you so much for having me. Salt Summit. Give it up for yourselves.